watching the ACC on ESPN. Touchdown Jesus on the campus of Notre Dame, right across the street from Purcell Pavilion, as we get set for a late night tilt in the Atlantic Coast Conference. Notre Dame back home for their final two games, taking on a Stanford team that has won 3 in a row. And major postseason implications for both teams tonight, particularly looking at ACC tournament seeding. Right now, Stanford has an opportunity to improve their chances of getting a top 4 seed and a double bye with a win tonight. Meanwhile, Notre Dame needs a win, at least one, over their next 2 games to secure a spot in the ACC tournament field. Hi again, everybody. Matt Schumacher, Eric Dievendorf with you. Finally, we get this matchup on the hardwood, a legendary matchup on the gridiron. First time these teams are playing basketball since 1993. Your thoughts on the matchup tonight?
Well, both teams still have a lot to play for. I think Stanford needs to limit Notre Dame paint touches, play through Reynaud, and Notre Dame has to rely on their big dogs, Burton and Davis.
Well, you just mentioned 2 of the top names in this conference when it comes to scoring the basketball. Marcus Burton for Notre Dame has been a bucket this year.
I mean, he's the top scorer in the ACC, nearly 22 a game. I mean, he's one of the most dynamic point guards in the country. He gets to his spots. He can finish at the rim. He's been creating better for his teammates. And on the other side, Stanford, this guy's an All-American candidate, one of the best centers in the country. 21 double-doubles, a Stanford program record, 1,500 points and 900 rebounds. Only the 4th player in Stanford history to have that. He's a guy who's been carrying the load for his team this year.
Those are your top 3 scorers in the conference. Meanwhile, Reynaud, he's top 5 in rebounding, scoring, and a plethora of other categories. That's a pretty good who's who right there in the ACC. Notre Dame in the home white with the gold trim. Stanford in the road red. The Cardinal have become one of the surprises, not just in this conference, but in the country this year. 1 win away from 20. And they're not going to accept that tip-off. Tony Padilla comes in and says, let's re-jump it. Bert Smith, Matt Potter, Tony Padilla, our officiating crew. And that is won by Maxime Reynaud. Here's Jalen Blakes, the Duke transfer. That'll be an interesting matchup to watch tonight against a smaller Marcus Burton.
Well, we talked about it in shoot-around earlier. Is Marcus Burton, with his size, is that hurting him defensively? And you see early on Jalen Blake's going right to the post up against him, but Burton doing a good job of holding his own.
7th different starting lineup this year for Notre Dame. They have dealt with a plethora of injuries as Tay Davis draws a foul of the shooting variety.
Well, you look at that matchup right there, Matt, with Cam against Davis, and you give the advantage to Notre Dame right there. Davis is one of the best at penetrating, getting to the rim, and getting to the free throw line. You see him. They got to make these 2 guys, Davis and Burton, jump shooters, and even then it's going to be tough for the Stanford team.
Micah Shrewsbury's struggles in year 2 have been well chronicled. And frankly, they've been snake bitten by injuries all year long. They're without his son, Braden Shrewsbury, for the rest of the year, their 3rd leading scorer. Matalako again tonight is a game-time decision, dealing with injury. And yet they've been in just about every game in league play.
That goes to show you, Matt, how good Burton and Davis has been for this Notre Dame team. But without their best shooter, without one of their best ball handlers, and Matalako best decision makers, puts a lot of the load on those 2 guys. Who are the other guys that can step up for Notre Dame and contribute on the offensive side of the ball?
Burton off the mark, rebound Reynaud. Meanwhile, for Stanford, they returned just 1 starter from a year ago. That's Maxime Reynaud. They were picked to finish 2nd to last in the conference, and yet we're talking about them possibly having an opportunity to finish top 4. What a year for Kyle Smith and the Cardinal. And a foul on the floor. On the rebound attempt goes against Notre Dame.
I think that just goes to show you what type of coach Kyle Smith is. Yeah, he's a guy who develops his players. We talk about Jalen Blakes and Osiah Sellers, 2 guys who have increased their scoring average by 11 points and by 8 points respectively. And Kyle Smith just gets his guys to buy in and gets his guys better each and every season.
Oh, great feed by Burton inside the Jai, and a whistle comes in. Irish are headed back to the foul line.
Matt, I think Jai is one of those guys who, obviously he's just known as a around the rim guy, but he's gotten better at shooting the basketball. He likes the corner three, but Burton's going to have to get in that lane, and he's going to be crowded. He's going to have to look to be able to make plays for others, and Jai is a guy who could be around the rim. He has to be ready to catch and ready to finish, and if he gets fouled, knock down these free throws.
Well, Micah Shrewsbury's had to mix and match lineups pretty much all season long. You go back to December when they lost Marcus Burton for 7 games during arguably their toughest stretch of the year. Certainly during the non-conference, played Houston, they played Creighton, they played Georgia, all without Marcus Burton, who missed a majority of that Rutgers game as well. Under 10 to shoot for Stanford. Agarwal tries a 3 and puts it down. First points of the night for Stanford after missing their first 4 shots.
And Agarwal is a guy who's continued to get better shooting, and known as a three-point shooter. Struggled early on shooting a 3, but he's a guy who's progressed, getting better, also making plays with the ball in his hands.
Last touched by Stanford. It'll stay here.
One of these plays where you got to make a play by yourself. Notre Dame did a good job early on keeping guys in front, but Agarwal, you go under the screen against him, he's going to take advantage and knock it down. Great shot right there by Ryan Agarwal.
Jumped into the starting lineup in December and never looked back for Kyle Smith after redshirting a season ago. Burton still scoreless in the game. 5 to shoot for Davis. What an athletic move, and Davis is headed to the free throw line. That's the 3rd consecutive trip to the line for Notre Dame.
Look, Matt, this is one of the keys for Stanford. They have to be able to limit Notre Dame paint touches. They know Burton, they know Davis are going to try to put their head down and get to the lane, draw fouls, create for their teammates. They got to do a better job of putting bodies in front of them, making them kick the ball out before they touch the paint.
Well, there's a couple of guys in this game tonight that are legitimate most improved player in the conference candidates. Tay Davis is one of those. The other, Jalen Blakes, who was buried on the bench at Duke and has become the 2nd leading scorer this year for Stanford.
Those are the 2 guys, Matt.
I'm with you.
It's either going to be Blakes or it's either going to be Davis. So we're watching the 2 guys that are in the running for most improved player, the 2 guys that should win it.
Do you have a sense, like if you were given a vote, is there a guy that has the nod in your opinion?
Well, me and you were talking about this earlier before. I think you got to give the nod right now to Jalen Blakes just because of where Stanford is at in the conference standings. They've been winning games. This could be their 20th win of the season. And look, he was at Duke last year and he averaged 1 point. You know, and now he's averaging almost 14 points a game. And besides that, he's bringing defense. He's averaging almost 2 steals a game. And look, either of these guys, whoever was to win it, both of them are deserving, excuse me, yeah, deserving of the award. So, but yeah, I just think Jalen Blakes with how Stanford's playing.
Right now at the line for 2 shots. And knocks them both down. 21 double-doubles this year for Reynaud, tied for the lead in the country. He too has improved substantially since last season.
Well, every single year. Since his freshman year, his scoring average went up, his rebounding average went up. But one thing that I've noticed about him this year is he's more of a vocal leader. He's turned into a team leader, getting his guys organized and being a leader more vocally on the floor.
Reigning most improved player in the Pac-12 from a season ago.
right now they have to get him the ball. That's it right there. He had position 3 times in a row. You have to be able to see him early. Stanford has to go into him early on, look to be aggressive at the rim.
Well, this is what Kyle Smith talked to us about, and that is what he called a growth mindset with Maxime right now. Last year was a stud for Stanford. New coaching staff comes in and has ideas about how he can improve as he takes that with authority to the rim. And rather than just brushing off the new staff, dug in and wanted to learn.
Which is rare these days, right? I mean, loyalty is rare these days in college basketball with the transfer portal and the NIL. Guys are looking to see, can they get more money? But he stuck with it, and now he's a potential NBA draft pick.
No doubt. Chisholm on par, trying to thread it down to Sellers. And here comes Tay Davis.
A little bit, but out of the other guys, I think J.R. Kinesi is a guy who really needs to step up in the scoring column for Notre Dame.
First made field goal of the night for the Fighting Irish. 5 minutes gone in the first half. And here comes Burton, still looking for his first field goal. Davis catch and shoot.
One thing for Tay Davis is if he's able to shoot the ball at a consistent level, he has NBA written all over him as far as his body type, how he can get to the basket, but he has to be able to be consistent with that jump shot.
Knesny tries another 3. And last touch by Notre Dame. It'll be Stanford ball when we come back. An early 2-point lead for the Cardinals.
And how about J.R. Knesny? Somebody else needs to step up. Number 20 is ready to do it. And how many 7-footers can pump fake, put it on the ground, and flush it? Maxime Reynaud.
Well, we talked about it a little bit at the top of the show. This Stanford team was picked second to last in the conference under first-year head coach Kyle Smith, who led Washington State to the NCAA tournament, snapping a 16-year drought a season ago. They returned just 2 contributors, 1 starter, the reigning MIP in the Pac-12, brought in 10 new faces, including 5 freshmen and 5 transfers. And of those transfers, Osiah Sellers and Jalen Blakes have been revelations for this team. Blakes, as Eric Dievendorf pointed out, averaged less than 2 points a game last year at Duke, and Osiah Sellers was not used often coming off the bench last season at USC. Now they're integral parts of this Stanford team.
Well, a big thing is about opportunity. I mean, the school that they're at last year doesn't mean they're not good players. They just had other guys in front, and the coach felt like those guys were better fit for the team. Kyle Smith does a great job of bringing guys in and having them buy into their roles, right? He's got a great group right here, and I think he's done a great job of developing guys, and Stanford is looking for their 20th win of the year.
Well, he's a program builder. This is the 4th different program he has taken over and been tasked with rebooting. As Chisholm Okpara, the Harvard transfer, was whistled for the travel. And he has a track record of success. 3 21 seasons at San Francisco. As we just mentioned, brought Washington State to their first NCAA tournament in over a decade last year. Stanford's knocking on the door in year 1.
One thing that really stands out to me about Coach Smith is his energy. It's infectious, his personality. He just seems like a great guy to be around, and I think his players feed off that energy and off the personality that he has.
First points of the night for the ACC leading scorer Marcus Burton, and it's a 3. Stanford just 1 for 4 from downtown to start. And Davis chucks that into the second row of seats, and back to the Cardinals.
is you're not going to keep Marcus Burton down for too long. They say try to make him a jump shooter, but he's shooting almost 40% from three. The little jab, get me off, and knock it down.
Reigning Rookie of the Year in the ACC. And has somehow been even better this year.
I mean, he's unbelievable. Just at his size, I mean, to be able to get in the lane and finish like he does amongst the trees, he's an incredible talent.
Stanford approaching a 3-minute scoring drought. Reynaud had it jarred loose. 3 to shoot. Reynaud, left hand won't go. And the drought continues for Stanford.
And here's my thing, Matt. I understand Reynaud he can be effective out on the perimeter, but when you have a guy like Roper and Davis where they're switching, get him down where it can be most effective in the low post, have the defense collapse, and then create opportunities for your guards off the long closeouts. But they have to find a way to get Maxime Ronet into the low post and then work his way out on the perimeter.
Coming off his 17th 20-point performance in the win against SMU on senior day for Stanford over the weekend. But spent a lot of time on the perimeter against the 2-3 zone of SMU. Burton creating space, rims out the pull-up.
And honestly, he can shoot the three, Reynaud, but teams would prefer to him being out on the perimeter. You're 7-2 right now. You got Roper on you. You got to see that.
Well, a good sight for Notre Dame fans. Madalaco onto the floor after missing 6 of the last 7 games with a wrist injury. He is wearing a wrap on that right wrist, his shooting hand. Here he is with the basketball, 10 to shoot. And Kansas' first jumper.
This is his last year. He only has a few games left. Irish are still fighting to get into the ACC tournament. You can't hold a guy like that back. He's too tough of a guard, and he wants to get out there and play and help his team.
Extends the Notre Dame run to 8-0. Meanwhile, a 4.5-minute scoring drought for Stanford.
Again, I just think that shot will be there all night for Reynaud if you want. And Notre Dame prefers for him to shoot that shot, get him down low, try to draw some fouls, get to the free throw line. Get some opportunities on the perimeter for your guards.
Benny Keeler off the bench for Stanford, now running the point. Cardinal desperate for some offense here.
Tate Davis is an underrated defender, moving his feet, keeping guys in front.
Reynaud on the smaller Roper. Left hand short. And it's going back to Notre Dame. Irish on an 8-0 run, frustrating Stanford Cardinals in the midst of a 5-minute scoring drought. Up, and they can better their chances of moving into the top 4 with a win tonight. Here is Madalaco. Again, missing 6 of his last 7 games. We saw him shooting with some extra shots this afternoon and then icing the wrist afterward. Gutting it out through pain in his final 2 regular season games of his collegiate career.
Well, it's an interesting lineup right now for Notre Dame. Davis or Burton not in the game. So where does the scoring come from?
Keeler tries a 3. Thompson the rebound, going into the paint. Kick out, Agarwal, no. And Stanford has missed their last 10 field goals.
Matt, if you look at Stanford and the shots that they're getting, there's not really enough ball movement to get open looks, and Stanford doesn't have a lot of guys who are just going to go one-on-one ISO. They need that ball movement side to side. They need to send cutters through the lane to find open opportunities.
Reynaud not on the floor either for Stanford, so 2 of the top 3 scorers in the ACC on the bench at the moment. Meanwhile, it's a foul on Notre Dame. You talked at length about getting Reynaud the ball in the paint. Now where do you go if you're Stanford?
Well, you just got to get ball movement from side to side. You got to try to create angles to drive into the lane. If you get that angle, you got to take it. The defense collapse. You have to make a decision whether it's a drive and kick or a drive and drop.
best wins of the season, in the words of Kyle Smith, a 73-68 win over SMU. The other was a upset of UNC. And Gaylor ends a 6-minute, 30-second scoring drought for the Cardinals.
We talked about where the offense is going to come from. Gaylor had 17 points last game coming off the bench. Former walk-on. Only 1 year, though. He earned a scholarship after that first year, and he's a guy that's been providing scoring for Stanford off the bench.
That was his best shooting performance of the ACC slate. Here he is running the break. Here comes Sir Muhammad. One of 3 freshmen getting additional minutes late in the year due to all the injuries, and he is headed to the free throw line.
Oh, Benny Gaylor, the former walk-on, and only for 1 year, he earned himself a scholarship after that 1 year, but coming off a hot performer, 17 points off the bench last game at SMU, he's continuing knocking down the corner 3.
Meanwhile, the foul situation is becoming interesting for both teams. 2 more fouls on Stanford. Notre Dame shooting free throws the rest of the way in the first half. 3 more on Notre Dame. Similar situation for the Cardinals. But Notre Dame's got to knock these down.
Just going to say, man, they're 2 for 8 now from the free throw line, so they're getting to the basket, creating opportunities. They're not knocking down their free throws.
This is a different game entirely if they make those free throws earlier. And it's going back to Stanford.
Well, they're doing their job, right? You want to be able to get downhill, get opportunities at the rim. They're being aggressive. And when you're aggressive, you're going to get foul calls, get opportunities to go to the free throw line. You have to knock them down.
2 fouls on Isaiah Sellers. He heads to the bench. 2 fouls on Kevin Jive for Notre Dame. He hasn't been on the floor in the last 5 or 6 minutes. Picked up 2 quick ones to start the game. And another whistle, the 6th team foul on Stanford. It goes against Benny Gaylor.
And I was talking to Coach Shrewsbury at practice yesterday, and he's really high on this young guy, Sir Muhammad, Nazir Muhammad's son, so it's in his blood already. But you see a guy right here who's just able to get into the lane, and he has good size. Doesn't look like a goaltender. It looks like a foul.
All right, Maxime Reynaud is going to come back on the floor for Stanford. He has had a bit of a struggle to start this game. 1 for 6. His long made field goal was a dunk after he put it on the deck and went straight to the cup. Tay Davis comes back on for the Irish.
Maybe it's just me, man, but if I'm 7'2" to start the game, I'm working myself inside, and then as it progresses, I can work myself out. But Stanford has to find a way to get him into that low block area, especially with guys like Tay Davis on him. You got to take advantage of that size of him.
Stanford 2 for 10 from downtown to start. Burton up and under, goes right past Gaylor off the window.
Great move right there by Burton. I don't know if he got away with a little travel right there, but as quick as he is, he probably didn't see it. So let's finish at the rim.
Thompson again. In and out, Reynaud, offensive board, missing from point-blank range. And it's Davis with the basketball.
And this is what Notre Dame has to try to do. You don't always want to have to play against a set defense in the half court. If you can get out in transition, get some early opportunities, that'd be ideal for both teams.
That is really well defended by Reynaud. And Stanford will slow the pace.
Those are the shots that you're going to have to go, or the defense you're going to have to go against every single time in half court. If you're not able to create turnovers in the half court and get out and play, it's really tough to play against a half court defense every single possession down the floor.
Thompson cutting off the back iron. And a whistle on the rebound effort goes against Notre Dame. Welcome back to South Bend, where offense has been at a premium tonight. Neither team shooting above 27%, but Notre Dame has played well defensively. And they are in the midst of a bit of a dogfight here at the end of the regular season. They need a win in one of their final 2 games or an NC State loss to Miami over the weekend to clinch one of the final few spots in the ACC tournament. And again, if you're just joining us and new to the ACC's change to the ACC tournament this year, bottom 3 teams in the league do not make it in. And NC State, man, upsetting Pitt tonight. I don't know about you, but I did not see that coming from the Wolfpack.
Well, shout out to my guy Kevin Keats. I mean, I had some great conversations with Kevin Keats and texting him back and forth. Great guy, but Matt, for Notre Dame, you want to get this win tonight.
Yes.
You don't want to have the pressure going into your last regular season game, having to win that game. Take some pressure off yourself tonight. Get this victory versus Stanford. Looks like it's going to be one of those grinded out games. Both teams, like you said, not shooting the ball very well at all.
Here's Cole Serta, who has shot it well, getting more minutes due to the injuries that Notre Dame has sustained. And they will not get the shot off. A violation will give it back to Stanford.
And you got to give Stanford credit. The first guy, Marcus Burton, is going to get by. It's hard to keep him in front. They're doing a great job of setting bodies in that second line of defense, making it hard for him, kicking it out, making decisions. Other guys have to be able to step up, and you have to make quicker decisions if you're Marcus Burton. And Matt, on this end, Stanford has to see the mismatches when Notre Dame is switching, especially with Raynaud. Right now, you got a smaller Tate Davis on you, and you're not even looking at it.
More than half of Stanford's shots have come from beyond the arc. They are shooting 13% from the floor, 3 for 23. And a nice job there by Tate Davis getting to the cup.
And if I'm Tate Davis and I have Maxime Raynaud guard me, I see blood every single time down the floor. I'm going right at him, 1, because I know I can get by him, and 2, I'm going to put him in foul trouble.
He scored 15 points or more in 3 of the last 4. Raynaud, tough shot, somehow finds the bottom of the cup. He's now 2 for 8.
Great players are going to make tough shots. Can you sustain a whole game getting those type of shots? I don't think so if you're Stanford. You got to find a way to get him closer to the rim.
Knezny, no. Tapped into the hands of Agarwal. Come on. You didn't have a game where you're just chucking up tough stuff that found the bottom of the cup every time?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Here's Raynaud. Off the heel, Keeler the rebound. Tries a 3 and puts it in. And a timeout taken by Notre Dame. Stanford grabs the lead on the 3 by Benny Keeler. We'll be right back after this. Keeler on the reload.
I mean, Benny Keeler, the former walk-on. Like I said, it only took 1 year, but if you're going to leave him open, he's going to knock it down. And Raynaud, look, I've been on him early on. I want him to get closer to the rim, but great players make tough shots, and that was one of them right there by Maxime Raynaud.
Kyle Smith said he thinks Benny Keeler can be an all-league player next year. Has that ability in him when it comes to playmaking and shooting the basketball. You saw it last weekend against SMU.
Well, he was 6 of 7, 5 of 6, 17 points, 3 assists. That's a big statement right there by Coach Smith. I think Benny Keeler has it in him, the work ethic. He's going to have a really good summer to be able to get to that level.
Stanford has shot 19%, and yet they lead by 1 in this game. What is happening right now at Purcell Pavilion?
Well, defensively, they're doing a great job of just putting bodies in front of Marcus Burton, and they know there's not a lot of shooters on the outside for the Irish. That's why it's so missing Shrewsbury, it changes the whole dynamic of this Irish team. And they know, again, Notre Dame doesn't have a lot of shooters out there.
And even with Matalacco returning from injury tonight, we're not sure how much he's going to play. Again, he was a game-time decision, and he's back on the bench now. Burton short, rebound Davis, and looked like he might have been caught on the arm by Reynaud. No call. And Stanford with the basketball.
You see Stanford on that possession switched it up a little bit with 1-3-1 defense, just giving Notre Dame a different look. And right now you have to see that. That's a pass you have to make right there. If you're Parr, you have to see that.
Oh, Benny Keeler in his bag in the first half. Has 3 triples.
Benny Keeler, I'm sorry. All right, my fault on that. I didn't know your game.
He heard you, Eric Diefendorf.
I didn't know your game like that, but now I do. You've been playing out of your mind in this first half, keeping Stanford in it.
Knesny with 5, driving on Thompson. Tough fadeaway jumper, no, and Reynaud snatches it off the rim.
Man, that's just not his game. He's not an ISO player. He's not a one-on-one guy. Notre Dame has to get some ball movement side to side, try to create some advantages that way. And if not, if you're going to go one-on-one, give it to Marcus Burton.
Reynaud catch and shoot. Chisholm Okpara fighting for the rebound. Wins a foul on Notre Dame, their 6th.
He says, I'll take that, sir. J.R. Knesny, you better step up.
5. Meanwhile, UNC right now hovering between last team in, first 4 out. Boy, if they can pick up a win against Duke, that would probably be enough to get them in to the ACC tournament. And we also have Kansas and Arizona that day, as well as Kentucky, Missouri. Thompson a 3. What do you think? UNC has a chance or no?
They've been playing great basketball as of late. You know, when those 2 teams play, Duke and UNC, you really throw the records out. It's so big of a rivalry that you never know what could happen. So I think Duke wins, but you never know the way UNC's been playing and just how intense it could get. We'll see what happens.
Tar Heels have won 6 in a row, doing their best to play themselves into the NCAA tournament. Meanwhile, Roper with 2 to shoot. Notre Dame in the midst of a 3.5-minute scoring drought. Stanford went over 6 minutes without a point in this half. They lead by 4. Reynaud into the teeth of Kebajai. That's now the 3rd foul on the Penn State transfer.
Well, it's funny what happens when you get the ball in effective spots. If you're 7'2", you can turn, you can face up. He gives you a little space, he closes out on it, and then you attack it. You didn't make the shot, but you got an opportunity at the free throw line.
Jai literally just came back into the game after returning from the commercial break. Now you got to think he'll head back to the bench for the rest of the first half. Stanford in the bonus the rest of the way. Well, this is what we're talking about. Right now, North Carolina, the last team in, but we know how that goes. Last year, NC State was one of those bid stealers, and if you were a last team in, you hated seeing NC State win the ACC tournament, stealing a bid. If you're North Carolina, Eric, you'd love to get that win against Duke and solidify your resume as a tournament team.
If you beat Duke, you're in. I mean, that's just what it is. I mean, that's a high-quality win. I think Duke wins the ACC tournament. I mean, they've just been playing at a high level the whole season. Defensively, everybody's locked in. Offensively, they have a superstar, and they got other guys fitting into their roles. And then one of the best players, or excuse me, one of the best coaches in the country, John Shire.
Cole Serta from the logo stops a 10-0 Stanford run.
Serta's a guy who hasn't really been getting any time this year. Injuries happen, opportunities come about, and he's done a good job stepping in and shooting the ball at a high level.
Okpara called for the travel. Looked like he was on ice skates. And now a couple of managers are going to come out and wipe the floor.
You don't like injuries happen, but it does create opportunities for other guys. And Cole Serta taking advantage of the time he's getting on the floor. He's been shooting the ball extremely well in the time that he's got.
Had a couple of threes in the most recent heartbreaking loss to Wake Forest over the weekend for Notre Dame. Had a couple of looks at the buzzer to tie it and send it to overtime. Could not.
Notre Dame has a few young guys that could really develop into some good players. Cole Serta, you got Garrett Sundra, who's a 6'11" big who can shoot the ball and stretch the floor a little bit as well.
70 seconds to play in the opening half. Stanford by 3. Reynaud a deep 2, splashes from the baseline.
If you're Konechny right there, you got to get up and crowd Reynaud and make him put it on the floor. You know he can knock down that jump shot.
And a whistle against Jalen Blakes, his first and the 7th on the Cardinal.
Right here, you're J.R. Konechny. You just got to get up and crowd, not even let him have an opportunity to shoot that and face up. And just a little bit of space Maxime Reynaud needs to be able to knock it down.
He is approaching a double-double. And we're not even at the end of the first half. 10 points, 8 boards, despite starting excruciatingly slow from the floor.
And Matt, really, despite his teammates missing him a lot on the mismatches and the high lows, I just think for Maxime Reynaud, and I've been redundant in saying this, but you have to start low. He has the advantage, especially with Tay Davis on him and J.R. Konechny. You have to look for it right now.
Tay Davis giving up 4 or 5 inches on Reynaud, and a whistle makes the 5th turnover for Stanford, giving it back to Notre Dame.
Now the next thing for Stanford, when they see the double team, they have to send cutters through. They have to have guys come up and lift. Right here, good job of getting it to the elbow. Now when the double team does come, you have to lift on the 3-point line or send cutters through the middle, and Reynaud has to be more decisive and make a quicker decision.
How about the 6-foot Burton sticking his chest into the 7'1" senior?
Well, that's just all heart right there. Yeah, I mean, he's one of the toughest point guards in the country.
Holding for what will effectively be the final shot. 1 second differential between game and shot clock. Burton bouncing off the side of the rim. Blakes from half court. And Stanford, despite shooting 23% from the floor, takes a 3-point lead into halftime. We'll take a quick break and then hand it over to Zubin Mehenti, Seth Greenberg, and Sean Farnham with a halftime report. How?
Well, Notre Dame can't make anything. Simple as
Simply
that.
put.
And ideally, look, both of these teams aren't great at creating turnovers, but ideally, when you're struggling like this in the half court, you want to try to get out and get some transition opportunities.
Inside to Tay Davis to start. He was just 1 for 5. They'd love to give him going a little bit more. He scored 15 or more in 3 of the last 4. Kevin Jai starts the second half with 3 fouls. Here's Burton with 3 to shoot. Kick out Davis to beat the horn. And Reynaud the rebound.
Look, man, Stanford's doing a great job of just crowding Burton. He's getting by the first guy, but he's seeing 2 or 3 bodies, and those are the type of shots that they're going to have the way Stanford's playing that defense. Tay Davis has to be able to knock him down.
That is the 2nd foul on Sir Muhammad. Both teams ended the first half in the bonus. And the foul trouble starting to stack up for Notre Dame. Now multiple players with at least 2 fouls. Reynaud, baseline jumper, buries it. And he leads all scorers with 12.
Now look, he gets it in a more effective spot. Short corner area, you turn, face up, knock down the jumper over a shorter Davis.
Notre Dame has been in so many tight games this year. 10 losses by single digits, 7 of those in league play. Here comes Agrawal off the turnover. Blakes takes flight and draws a foul. That might be number 3 on Sir Muhammad. It is. So now he and Kebajai with 3 fouls.
Both teams been struggling in the half court. Stanford got an opportunity to get a semi-transition, and Jalen Blake's doing a great job of just getting downhill, being aggressive at the rim. An opportunity to knock down 2 free throws.
Now, meanwhile, Stanford, unlike Notre Dame, has been able to win so many close games. They've now won 3 in a row, including a 73-68 win over SMU over the weekend. Kyle Smith he's not an emotional guy, but he was almost emotional in the post-game press conference. It was senior day for Stanford. They've completely outpaced expectations externally and maybe even some internally this year. 1 win shy of 20 as Burton has his first bucket of the second half.
I think one thing that people have to understand is these guys are spending so much time together during the year, on the court, off the court. Obviously, they want to win basketball games, but they're molding these guys into men. And you can see with Coach Smith, he's passionate about not only making them better basketball players, but growing them into better men.
Now he's standing in a defensive stance at midcourt. His team with their largest lead of the game at 7. Davis, no. Second chance, draws a foul on Reynaud. 2 shots coming for the Indianapolis native. Just the first foul on Reynaud and the first on Stanford in the half.
And look, right now Cole Serta is really the only guy who's a pure shooter out on the floor. Yes, Marcus Burton can knock it down, but he's more effective getting to the rim. Notre Dame is going to be effective when they can get into the paint and create opportunities, draw fouls. But again, they have to be able to knock down their free throws.
You wonder how much we'll see Matt Alacco in the second half. His head coach just put him back into the game. We saw him for 8 or 9 minutes in the first frame. And again, if you haven't been following Notre Dame closely this year, one of a handful of players who's missed significant time with injuries. 6 of the last 7 games, playing with a wrap on his shooting wrist tonight.
One thing about Alacco too is he's more than just a shooter. He's a leader. You see him right now. He's communicating on the court. He's a great defender. He's also a great decision maker. Just him being on the floor makes Notre Dame a better team.
And it goes beyond this too, but this is your big 3, right? Burton, leading scorer. Alacco, 4th leading scorer. Shrewsbury out for the year. He's been their 3rd leading scorer. And at the time he went out, he was in the midst of a heater. 3 straight games in double figures for the head coach's son.
And I think the big one, obviously, right now is Shrewsbury. He's one of the best shooters in the ACC. He spaces the floor. He makes those driving lanes a little bit bigger for Davis and Burton. And right now, it's been really hard for Notre Dame. Well, if you're going to hit shots like that, okay, but it's been really hard for Notre Dame driving, getting the lane. But if you're Marcus Burton, one of the best guards in the country, you're able to knock down tough shots like that.
Leads the ACC in scoring coming into the night. Turnaround jumper and a friendly bounce for Maxime Reynaud.
We've been saying it all night, Matt. Get him the ball where he can be most effective, and that's around the rim. Just make a quick decision. Turn around, go up to the rim. And great players make tough shots like this. Marcus Burton, nothing surprises you with him. And Maxime Reynaud, get him the ball where he can be effective. Turn around, you're 7'2", go up, finish at the rim. Somebody needs to cut off the ball, and then, yeah, great job right there.
Almost picked by Burton, and he secures it. 2-on-1. Transition 3. And it's back to a 1-point game. Timeout, Stanford.
Creating offense from your defense, Marcus Burton. He doesn't need need a lot of space. Knocking it down. Top guard in the ACC.
Well, the ACC's leading scorer has erased the largest lead of the game for Stanford at 7 and made it a 1-point game with 8 quick points to start the second half. They call him a walking bucket around here. Watch out. Get your popcorn ready. We're expecting a big second half from Marcus Burton here as we welcome you back to Purcell Pavilion. He can make it from anywhere, man.
I mean, he's relentless. I mean, he's going to miss a couple shots. He's just going to keep going. One of the most explosive guards in the country. Just love to watch him play.
Meanwhile, Reynaud's just been short around the rim a handful of times tonight. Good defense there on Tay Davis. Behind the play as Gieler pushes.
And right now, if you're good, you have to see him. You have to get him the ball right now. Matlock will guard him.
Oh, what a take by Jalen Blinks. Counted in the foul.
And Matt, just how he drew it up. Get it off the tip back and up and under. Finish and one.
All right, folks at home, you ready for possibly the most convoluted path to a top 4 seed ever? Here it is. Stanford, who is, by the way, picked 17th in the preseason poll out of 18 teams. If they do all of this, Devo, will be a top 4 seed and earn a coveted double bye in this year's ACC tournament.
Well, they have to win this game first.
No doubt. Let's simplify it for Kyle Smith and company.
And then it's good. Look, it's tough when you're banking on other teams. Just take care of your business, and then where everything else falls, that's just what it is. But take care of business tonight, then look forward to Louisville on Saturday.
Which, you know, if Stanford wins this game, they're one of the hottest teams in the conference just by the nature of winning 4 in a row and who they've beaten, right? Including SMU over the weekend, who for a long time was in the NCAA tournament. Now they're sort of on the outside looking in. Sets up a really interesting matchup for Stanford against Louisville if they win here tonight.
Like you said, Matt, they were picked 17th in the conference.
Yeah.
They already won.
No doubt.
I mean, just the season that they're having and the job that Coach Smith has done. I mean, they're bringing the Stanford program back to life.
A win tonight would give them 20 for the first time since the 2019-2020 season. It would also give them 12 conference wins for the first time since 2008. Pretty remarkable for this first-year staff that replaced 6 of the top 7 scorers from a year ago. Burton from way downtown. Blake, step back, got it.
That's a good job by Blake's right there, just recognizing the switch with Jai and just being aggressive off the dribble, creating space, knocking it down.
Burton spinning. Great defense by Stanford. They really make you work less than 10 to shoot. Davis off the bounce, trying to posterize Kamen and draws a foul. Well, he cocked that back from about the free throw line. And it is the second foul on Aiden Kamen. So back to the line goes Tay Davis. 4th trip to the stripe tonight. For the second-year Seton Hall transfer, makes the first. Well, our NBA Friday Western Conference doubleheader features the Grizzlies taking on the Kyrie-less Mavs. Tough stuff for Dallas. Meanwhile, the Suns currently 11th in the West. They will take on Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets. Coverage begins at 7 Eastern. Yes, you did just see Brad Stevens in attendance. His son is a walk-on for Micah Shrewsbury's Notre Dame Fighting Irish, of course. Brad Stevens and Micah Shrewsbury, close friends, have spent a decade coaching together, both at the collegiate level at Butler and then in the NBA with the Boston Celtics. 4 Final Fours if you include the 2 at Butler and the 2 with the Celtics losing in the Eastern Conference Finals for those 2.
And look, I know he's friends with Coach Shrewsbury. I know he's here with his son's on the team, but if I see Brad Stevens in the crowd, I'm going a little bit extra harder. If I'm Tank Davis, if I'm Maxime Reynaud and Marcus Burton, I'm going a little bit harder knowing that one of the best GMs in the NBA is in the stands.
Three-point lead for Stanford, who has shot better in the second half, 66%. Again, Davis trying to poster and could not.
Well, I like the aggression right there by Davis. You got to keep being aggressive towards the rim. But Matt, Stanford's done a great job this half of getting the ball in spots where they can be effective.
Cardinal now 4 for 20 from downtown. Notre Dame 5 of 15. Here's a Laco. Knesny.
We talked about the other guys. We know Burton, we know Davis, but Knesny's a guy who's a capable shooter on that three-point line. When you get opportunities like that, you have to be able to knock them down.
Blakes. Burton sitting on 17. 10 of those in the second half already for the ACC's leading scorer. Gaylor into the front court. That quickly pays it off for Stanford.
And if I'm Stanford, I want to try to get more of those type of opportunities. Unforced error right there by Jai, but turns into offense on the other end for Stanford. Don't have to play against a set defense. Easy layup in transition.
Foul on Stanford, which will take us to our under 12 media timeout. Well, you know this rivalry for its lure on the gridiron. More on that when we return in South Bend. Stanford and Notre Dame, a matchup known for great contests on the gridiron. How about this? 100 years ago, they met for the first time in football in the 1925 Rose Bowl. And the Notre Dame Fighting Irish got it done, winning their first ever national title. Look at all the people in the Rose Bowl there. And now here we are playing for just the 4th time ever on the hardwood, and the first as inter-conference foes. Yes, Stanford is part of the Atlantic Coast Conference now.
100 years ago, I'm still trying to get that in my head. 100 years. How times have changed.
That was great video for 100 years ago.
Yeah, I wonder who took that and got that to us. Shout out to them.
Fadeaway jumper, Muhammad rams it down, playing with 3 fouls. Another guy that has missed many games this year, in fact 10, while undergoing a minor knee surgery.
And I like Sir Muhammad, though. I think he has good size. He can handle the ball. He's a good defender. He can shoot the ball well. He has a bright future here at Notre Dame.
Jalen Blakes has 8 points in this game, all in the second half. And Stanford maintains a 5-point lead.
Stanford going to a little, we're in the zone for a second. Looks like they went back to the switching man.
Burton thought about it. Eyes the shot clock, 5 to go.
Well, on that possession, either they were in zone or they were just confused. One of the two, but it seemed to work out.
Well, I heard a coach say once, if my defense doesn't know what defense we're in, the offense sure as heck doesn't either.
Yeah.
First foul on Knesny, fourth already on Notre Dame, halfway through the second frame. Well, a big Saturday to cap off the regular season. Alabama, Auburn, followed by Arizona and Kansas, and then another sonic blockbuster in the ACC. Duke and North Carolina in an all-important rematch for the Tar Heels, all on ESPN Saturday afternoon.
Matt, I think Stanford figured it out this half. 4 for 20 from the three-point line. They got 14 points in the paint. Be aggressive, put your head down, try to get opportunities at the rim. If you don't finish, get to the free throw line.
Micah Shrewsbury didn't like this. He thought it should have been a foul instead of jump ball, and it's back to Stanford. Your thoughts?
I played in the old Big East. Play ball. Play ball, man. Good defense right there.
Clock issue pointed out by Tony Padilla, one of our 3 officials tonight. Who was the grittiest, grimiest, most physical player you played against in the Big East that comes to mind immediately?
Pittsburgh as a team.
As the whole team?
The whole team. I mean, yeah, Carl Krauser, Aaron Gray, I mean, Chevy Troutman. Look, every time I went into it was the zoo. It was the real zoo back then. It's not the zoo anymore. It's the, I don't know what you're going to call it, but every time you went into the zoo, that environment right there, it was just, they made it tough to play in.
Matt Schumacher, Eric Devendorf, the Syracuse star, also played in a 6 overtime game at the Garden. That had to be a thrill.
Well, I guess I'm biased, but it was the greatest college basketball game of all time.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm putting it out there.
How many did you have in that game?
Over 20. I want to say 22.
The fact that you don't know the exact number.
All right, it was 22. Okay,
it was 22. All right.
I didn't want to be that guy, okay? But it was 22. I was 6 for 10, 4 for 6 for 3.
Hey, look, if you play in a 6 overtime game at the Garden, and it's literally one of the best college basketball games that we will ever remember, you're allowed to remember the exact score you had in that game.
And in Madison Square right now, they have a shrine.
For you.
Not for me. That would be awesome, though. But they have a shrine for that game in particular. And look, you don't want to be a UConn fan talking about that 6 OT game. So I'm glad that we won.
They got some revenge later. Some years with an older Kemba Walker.
They did.
Went on to win the national title against Brad Stevens and Micah Shrewsbury's coached Butler Bulldogs in the 2011 NCAA National Championship game.
And look, all respect to UConn, but I'm just telling you right now, Matt, we don't spend a lot of time talking about UConn over here, all right?
Well, and rightfully so.
Rightfully so.
Largest lead of the night for Stanford comes with 8:50 to go and a timeout taken by Notre Dame. Micah Shrewsbury not pleased with his team's effort in the paint, and you've been preaching it all night, Eric Devendorf. Get Maxime Reynaud near the rim. Stanford has over the last couple of minutes. They now have their largest lead of the game.
Well, they're shooting 4 for 20 from 3. The first half, they were more perimeter oriented. The second half, Coach Smith made the adjustment, attack the rim, get the ball into Reynaud in effective spots by the rim, and it seems to be working for him.
6-0 Stanford run over the last 2 minutes. Burton sitting on 17. Olako got his own miss and put down on the reload.
It's a great foul by Olako and knocking it down, but that's what I'm talking about with Tate Davis. Good job by Burton getting in the paint, kicking it out. If he was a confident shooter, he's shooting that right away instead of hesitating and knocking it down.
Keeler eyeing the shot clock. 5 to go. Keeler trying to shake loose from Davis. 1 to shoot. He will not get it off. Great defense by the 6'9" junior from Indianapolis. Notre Dame hanging around at the under 8 timeout here in South Bend.
If I'm Maxine right now, yes, I'm capable of being out on the perimeter, but get the ball where you can be most effective near the rim. This second half, Stanford's really found out what works for them. Get the ball by the rim, just go up strong and finish. 18 points, 9 rebounds for the All-American candidate.
Reigning most improved player of the year in the Pac-12. Certainly will be an all-conference player in the ACC, worthy of All-American status this year. And it was just announced yesterday he is the Scholar Athlete of the Year in the ACC.
And I was a communications major. He has economics and math. He's way above me.
Computer science.
Yeah,
And he's French, but speaks English fluently. And he said when he came to Stanford 4 years ago, he didn't speak English fluently, didn't understand the language all that well. A lot of growth for Maxime Reynaud over the last 4 years. No whistle, a lot of contact. Shot clock did not reset. And it's a violation on Stanford.
If I'm Notre Dame right now, Matt, that's what I need to get defensively. I need to create turnovers, try to get out in transition, and get easy opportunities. Stanford's done a good job of just keeping bodies in front of Burton. Yes, he's going to make tough shots, but you can't sustain a whole game playing that way.
Notre Dame shooting 29% in this game, and yet they're within striking distance. Burton. Foul called on Keeler. That is number 2, and now the 6th on Stanford. One more, and Notre Dame is at the line for the rest of the game.
Burton is one of the best in the country at making you foul him. Great job keeping Keeler on his hip, ball fakes, pump fakes, good footwork, getting him up in the air, creating the foul. Just does a great job getting to the rim, getting to the paint, and drawing fouls.
Again, though, the free throw woes continue for Notre Dame in this game. They're now 10 for 17 from the line.
And you do all that work trying to get into the paint, create an opportunity at the foul line. You have to be able to knock those down.
Burton top 10 in the conference in free throw attempts this year. Could be a factor down the stretch with Stanford hovering at 6 fouls. Thompson was way off the mark. Agarwal fighting for it, and last touched by the redshirt freshman. Back to Notre Dame.
Man, they always told me, if you're open, there's a reason why you're wide open. Jalen Thompson, take the ball, get strong, go to the bucket, create an opportunity at the rim. Notre Dame's going to take those all day.
Taking contact, a foul on Agarwal. That's number 2. And Notre Dame into the bonus the rest of the way.
Well, what I really like about Davis is he was just decisive right there. He got the ball, he ripped it, and he attacked. I think Notre Dame, they're playing too slow. They have to be quicker in their decision-making. He's one of the strongest guard-forward hybrids in the conference. He just puts his head down, gets to the rim, puts that shoulder in your chest.
You just said the word that I think so perfectly encapsulates his game, hybrid. And I feel like talking to you and others, that's why there is upside for him at the next level.
Well, he's versatile on the defensive side of the floor. You saw the possession where he guarded Gieler for 8 seconds straight, caused a shot clock violation. The one thing that he has to have is a consistent jump shot. If he gets that, I think he definitely has an opportunity at the next level in the NBA.
Maxime Reynaud a little bit shaken up, gripping his lower back after hitting the deck on that rebound attempt. Foul on Notre Dame. The team's 5th. And the 3rd on Julian Roper. So now 3 Notre Dame Fighting Irish players with 3 fouls. Roper, Muhammad, and Jai. Who has barely played in this game, but he's back on the floor now with those 3 fouls.
And here you see Stanford going back to perimeter-oriented shooting threes. Get the ball back inside. Go to what was working for you.
Here's Jai with a two-hand jam and the foul. Grown man stuff by the junior.
And just a miscommunication defensively right here. You see Kamen should have been in right there, trying to get in front of Jai. Good recognition right there by Burton. Finding Jai, and he knows what to do with it.
And now Kamen is fouled out. And the foul situation becoming increasingly more dire for Stanford, who again tonight is without Donovan Young. Injured his hip early in the SMU game. He has been in and out of their lineup. And I'm not sure Stanford realizes that Kamen is fouled out. They have not put a sub at the scorer's table just yet. But that was the 5th on Kamen, unless they change who the foul was on. And right now, Bert Smith is at the monitor, perhaps checking to see who that foul was on. Initially called on Kamen, it would be his 5th.
Matt, this is really where it hurts not having Donovan Young. He was a guy that just brings versatility, athleticism. You can play a little bit faster with him in the lineup.
Well, now they're going to change the foul and say it was on Reynaud, his 2nd. So Kamen remains in the game with 4 fouls. And we're being told that is the right call. Benny Gieler pops up off the bench for Kyle Smith. He's going to check back in at some point. Davis, the offensive rebound. Catch and shoot a Laco. Bang! From downtown. Tied at 46.
Best time to get an open three-point shot off the offensive rebound. Stanford needs to go back to what was working for them. Get the ball inside to your best player.
9-0 Notre Dame run. And an offensive foul on Reynaud.
The best time to get a three-point opportunity off Austin. Good job by Davis recognizing Alaco, knocking it down, and then Alaco coming down on the defensive side of the ball. Reynaud, he knows he's going to be out of control. Great awareness by Alaco, dry on the charge.
Burton trying to thread it to Jai. Last touch by Stanford. Baseline out of bounds with 6 to shoot.
Now you see Jai, he's in that deep corner on that last possession, and Reynaud is all the way off. Jai can hit that corner 3. Burton has to recognize that and see him open in that corner.
Into Burton with 5 to go. Defended by Blakes. Burton rams out a jumper. Jai fighting for it. And a tie-up. It's going to be Notre Dame basketball per the possession arrow. That is great effort by Kevin Jai, who again has not played much tonight because of the early foul trouble.
But you just said it right there. Effort. That's what his role is. Energy, effort, being physical, being active. Burton and Davis are your scorers. How can I make an impact on this team? Effort and energy and just being active.
Alaco, the inbounder, a fresh 20 for Notre Dame, who has not led in this half. And that is number 4 on Maxime Reynaud, one of the league's leading scorers and rebounders, is now in major foul trouble with still 4:42 to play. And again, it goes back to that review of the monitor. Instead of the 5th foul on Kamen, the 3rd foul on Reynaud, which was the right call. He had the charge up here. And now the foul underneath. And if you're Kyle Smith, is it a simple decision? You have to leave him in?
Well, you probably want to take him out and just leave him on the bench for at least until under the 4-minute timeout and decide what you're going to do right there. Give him a little breather. But It was really the charge call right there.
Yeah.
7'2", starting from the top of the key, trying to get downhill against the guard. Not a great decision.
He's picked up 3 fouls in the last 3 minutes, and now a timeout by Kyle Smith. His team trailing for the first time in the second half. And if you're just joining us, Matt Schumacher, Eric Dievendorf with you. Massive game for both of these teams when it comes to ACC tournament implications. For Stanford, a win tonight keeps their chances of a top 4 seed and a double bye alive. Meanwhile, for Notre Dame, a win tonight solidifies their presence in the tournament field.
Well, these last 3 possessions, Stanford went away from what was really being effective in this half, and that's getting the ball down low to their best player, Maxime Reynaud. And on the other end, Notre Dame is doing a good job putting it in their best player hands and Burton, getting downhill off the pick and roll, creating opportunities.
Reading Maxime Reynaud's lips, he doesn't realize he has 4 fouls. An assistant coach for Stanford just told him coming out of the timeout, you have 4. He is in shock right now. And they're going to leave him on the floor. Are you in shock that they're leaving him on the floor with 4:36 to play?
Well, I'm in shock that he wouldn't have the awareness to know that he has 4 fouls. But if I'm Notre Dame, right away when I get the ball in this end, I'm going to attack him.
24 seconds away from being in that break zone. Reynaud, turnaround J won't go. And Burton the rebound.
Not a good shot at all. He missed the cutting Blakes, who was wide open at the front of the rim.
Notre Dame on an 11-0 run over the last 4 minutes to regain the lead. First time they've had it since it was 16-14, and Burton adds to it. Give them 22.
And now, Matt, with Reynaud playing with 4 fouls, he's going to be a little bit less aggressive defensively. Now that opens the floor up for Burton really to be aggressive and attack downhill.
Agarwal can't stop the bleeding. There's a whistle underneath. And it will go against Notre Dame. That is the 5th on the Irish, who have gotten a great second half from Burton.
Burton getting downhill, making it happen. Notre Dame with the lead.
Welcome back to South Bend. Notre Dame trailed by as many as 9 in this half. They've gone on a 13-0 run over the last 4.5 minutes. Both teams bonus plus the rest of the way. Stanford with a timeout, Notre Dame with 2. Cardinal have won 3 in a row, including a major win over the weekend at home against SMU. Meanwhile, how many of these close games have the Irish been on the wrong side of in conference play? 7 single-digit losses, including 4 in the last 9, and a turnover will give it back to the Irish.
Just unforced errors right there. And these last 3 possessions for Stanford, all perimeter oriented. You see, yeah, just a really bad pass right there by Gieler.
And that's out of a timeout. 10th turnover for Kyle Smith's team. And now they need to buckle down here and get a stop.
You're Notre Dame, you're just going back into the pick and roll every time and letting your best player make a decision.
He has 24 in the game, 17 in the second half.
Off the pick and roll, he does such a good job of keeping that first defender on his hip, Now that big fella has to make a decision. Do I want to come up? He's going to blow by. If I stay back, he has a jump shot. Way to knock it down, Marcus Burton.
Way to go inside to Maxime Reynaud. That stops a 5.5-minute scoring drought, and now his 18th 20-point performance this year.
Every time they go inside to Reynaud, it seems like they get a bucket or they create an opportunity for another teammate.
Burton trying to draw contact, won't get it. 4-point game, less than 3 minutes to go. ACC tournament seeding on the line tonight for both teams.
And Reynaud has Matalaku on him. He has to be able to seal him or knock it down, right? Ryan Agarwal. But my point is, if you have a Laku on you and you're a 7'2" center, get down there, seal, get position so you can get the ball.
Back to a one-point game, 2:15 to play in regulation. Davis threw it away. Blakes bumping into Burton, and there is no foul called, and neither player, frankly, can believe there wasn't a foul called on the other. Basketball will stay here for Stanford with 20 on the timer. Here's another look at it.
You see Burton just slipped right there. I mean, honestly, I like it. It's a no call. Both players are going after the ball. Like I said, I'm an old Big East guy, Matt, so play on.
Play it.
I like that right there. I like that.
My man had 22 in the Garden in a 6 overtime game. Let's go.
Come on, man. Greatest college game of all time, and I'm not being biased anymore.
Less than 2 minutes to go here in South Bend. Final 2 regular season games for both teams. Olako with 5 to shoot. Gaylor hedging, 2 to shoot. Olako heaving a prayer. They're going to count the basket? No. Shot clock violation. Tony Padilla says that was a wild sequence. Not even close to the rim. And it was almost tipped in by a Stanford player.
That would have been tragic right there for Stanford.
So a chance to take the lead for the Cardinal.
And right now, Tay Davis. Well, now you have Roper guard. Okay, Jalen Blakes, Ryan Agarwal, knock it down. Be quiet, Devendorf.
13 for Jalen Blakes. All of those in the second half, and a timeout taken by Micah Shrewsbury. It has been a game of runs in the second half. Stanford answering Notre Dame's 13-0 run with an 8-0 run of their own.
Stanford's really been struggling from the perimeter all game, but the last 2 possessions, Agarwal and now Jalen Blakes sizing him up, knocking it down.
And Jalen Blakes, as we've talked about, Eric, a legit candidate for most improved player of the year in the ACC. Spent the last handful of years at Duke, was really never a key player for the Blue Devils, and you could say the same for Tay Davis on the other side. But the second half for Jalen Blakes is why Stanford is leading in this game with a minute to play.
And that span where he was out, Stanford was a totally different team.
No doubt.
He's a quarterback. He's the leader of this team. He gets his guys organized. And he's just a tough, hard-nosed competitor. Coach Smith talked about him having a high IQ and eventually being a coach when he's all done playing. But Jalen Blakes is showing his skill and showing why he's in the running for most improved player.
Kyle Smith said he's one of the best point guards he has ever coached. And he did tell us he's a future coach. He just doesn't know it yet.
Yeah. He still has a lot of playing to go for him. But I'm sure after he's all done, he'll definitely have a career in coaching.
It's been the Marcus Burton show in the second half for Notre Dame. 17 of his 24 coming in the second 20 minutes. And a foul. Is that the 5th on Reynaud? No, it is on Benny Gaylor, his 3rd. And 2 shots coming for Tay Davis, who has taken 10 of Notre Dame's 23 foul shots tonight.
I like how Tay Davis is just being assertive and just going, but he really got bailed out right there. He went behind his back, and just a lucky foul call right there. He has to knock down these two free throws.
Well, Davis 6 for 10 at the line tonight. Notre Dame shooting just above 60% from the stripe as a team. Well, Saturday, UFC 313 is highlighted by the light heavyweight title featuring Justin Gaethje's return after his epic KO loss to Max Holloway. If you like battles in the middle of the ring, make sure you tune in to UFC 313 on Saturday night.
Yeah, those guys are different. They are different. I don't want anything to do with that.
No, I want no part. I'm going to watch it from my couch.
That's it.
From the safety of my own home.
It's a different mindset right there.
1 point Stanford lead. Less than 50 seconds to go in South Bend. Cardinal trying to win their 4th straight. Blakes to Sellers. Tough turnaround jumper won't go. Alako the rebound. Less than a second differential between game and shot clock, and Micah Shrewsbury uses his final timeout for Notre Dame. I'm going to ask you this question, though I believe it's probably an obvious answer.
Right.
Who you going to if you're Notre Dame?
I'm giving the ball to Marcus Burton. I'm spacing the floor, going into a pick and roll action, letting him get downhill and make a decision.
All right, devil's advocate. Everybody in the building thinks you're going to Marcus Burton. Do you think about using him as a decoy, going to Tay Davis?
No. I'm giving the ball to my best player. If he doesn't get it, they double team, they don't let him get the ball. You have to have Tay Davis flash to the middle, and once he get it, just rip and go to the rim and be aggressive. Try to create an opportunity where you can draw a foul.
Notre Dame is in the double bonus. They have gotten to the line with great frequency tonight. They just haven't been able to knock down shots at the line. A team that has shot 74% this year has been limited to just 60% from the line tonight. Meanwhile, Stanford, it looked for a second like they were going to go off the rails here late in this half on the wrong end of a 13-0 run, countered with an 8-0 run. And this is a huge game for both teams. A win tonight for Stanford increases their chance at that coveted double bye at a top 4 seed in the ACC tournament. Meanwhile, Notre Dame needs a win in one of their 2 final games to secure a spot in the ACC tournament. Remember, the last 3 teams at the end of the regular season will miss the league's tournament this year. Less than a second differential between game and shot clock. Julian Roper will inbound to Alako. Davis, corner 3. Oh, yeah! Cole Serta from distance. Notre Dame leads. 1 timeout for Stanford. Not going to use it. Blakes picked. Serta knocks it out of bounds. And there are 4.2 remaining. And now Kyle Smith will use his final timeout. Biggest shot of Cole Serta's young career. The freshman from Leroy, Illinois, gives Notre Dame a 2-point lead.
Just like we said, Mac, give Cole Serta the ball. How about the other guys stepping up?
Wow.
Look, Tay Davis, we knew he was going to be aggressive, drew the double team, and I don't know if Maxine Ray knew or not, but Cole Serta is probably one of the best shooters on the floor. What a big shot for the freshman stepping up. Hasn't really been playing at all this year, getting the opportunity because of injuries, and a shot like that, what it does for your confidence going forward, incredible.
Back-to-back games with multiple threes now for the freshman. If you're Stanford down 2, where are you looking with 4.2 to play?
Well, obviously you have to be decisive. I'm giving the ball to Jalen Blakes. You want to try to get downhill. If you collapse the defense and get a kick out to Agarwal or Sellers, but just crash and get on the rim, try to get a tip if you miss from Rayno. Jalen Blakes put the ball in his hands.
No timeouts for either team. A foul by Notre Dame puts Stanford at the line for a 1-and-1. Blakes has 13 points in the game, all of those coming in the second half. And Cole Serta has put everybody in this building on their feet. Benny Geeler, the inbounder for Stanford. Here we go. Final 4.2 from South Bend. No timeouts. Into Agarwal. 3 seconds. Agarwal cannot do it, and Notre Dame survives on the 3-point shot from Cole Serta. And the Irish have solidified their spot in the ACC tournament.
What a way to fight. Notre Dame. Marcus Burton carried the load, but then the other stepped up. Cole Serta knocking down the corner three. Big time shot for the freshman.
In a year that has seen so many single-digit losses, 10 for Notre Dame, they finally come out on the right side of a single-digit one-possession game.
Probably not the best possession for Stanford. You get it to a guy who can create, but just not enough. Not a clean look, and again, probably not the best shot that Stanford wanted, but got to credit Notre Dame. Just continue to stick to it. And how about Cole Serta? He's a big man on campus tonight.
Man, what a game of runs in the second half. Both teams giving their best. 13-0 run by Notre Dame, followed by an 8-0 run from Stanford. Cardinal will look to get their 20th win of the year at Louisville over the weekend. Meanwhile, Notre Dame will host Cal for senior night on Saturday. Notre Dame wins at 56-54 from South Bend.